Well, hello, class members of PHDE 658. I am here today with Gail Perry. Very pleased to have her with me today. And I think this is going to be a great conversation to talk about some of the donor relationship building that we have been talking about in class. Gail is an internationally recognized fundraising consultant. She's considered one of the foremost experts in the field of philanthropy and nonprofits. Her company, Gail Perry Group, helps nonprofits reach extraordinary fundraising and capital campaign goals. She is a veteran philanthropy leader. She's a keynote speaker, author of more than 30 years, with more than 30 years experience, and she's known for her positivity, expertise, and insight. She's got some wonderful books. She has a capital campaign textbook, Capital Campaigns Strategies That Work, and the book that I am really a big fan of and have read a couple of different times, Fired Up Fundraising, Turning Board Passion into Action. Really the gold standard guide to building successful fundraising boards. So thank you for being with us, Gail. I appreciate it.
Oh, John, it's great to be here. How are you doing today?
I'm very good. It's snowing in Michigan here right now, but other than that, it's all good.
So sorry. My flowers are blooming in my garden in North Carolina. I'm just so happy.
That's good. That's good. Well, I would expect it to be like that. So I first became aware of your popularity and some of your work a number of years ago at an AFP conference when people were literally sort of hanging out the doors trying to get in to hear you talk. And you talked about um, when in doubt, throw a party, which I really thought was cool. Found it very intriguing and sort of a kind of a different way to look at events around fundraising. So, is there a difference between a party and an event? And if so, what is it?
Well, the difference between a party and an event is that at a party you really care about your guest experiences, and you're playing host and introducing people to each other. Creating a party, um, as opposed to just a fundraising event. I've seen people in the corner as wallflowers, sort of going, "Oh my gosh, I don't know anybody." But I want to mention the whole concept of when in doubt, throw a party, and the notion behind it is that we can raise more money, everybody, if we create a positive, fun atmosphere with our own personal energy. And can you turn your committee meetings into parties? What can you do to lighten up the work at hand? Because if you're having more fun with in your planning for an event or with a committee meeting or even in your staff team, you attract more people to you. You attract more donors to you. And if you can turn an event into the best party in town, so many wonderful benefits will accrue to your organization. And let's just think about what they are. I mean, number one, everybody who came last year is going to come back if it was the best
Mhm.
party in town. And also, they're going to tell their friends. They can say, "Oh, you just really got to come to this event," and also this wonderful organization. And also, it spreads the word about you and your mission in the community because people are talking about it. So you will raise more money too because you're attracting more people who are also interested and open to learning about your mission. So the whole theme really is to add a sense of fun and lighten up the energy to make it more attractive to people. Does that make sense, John?
It does, and I appreciate that. So, as someone, and I'm sure people in this class will be in this boat. I've been in this boat. You've got an event that's been held for a number of years, and it's the annual gala, or it's the fun run race walk, whatever. It's an auction or whatever. Are you saying if you have to do that, provide some of these strategies to that, providing that interaction and enthusiasm as part of that?
Yeah, yeah. One time, one of my capital campaign clients was having a gala, and I challenged them. I said, "Listen, we're in the middle of a campaign. We need to make this gala the best party in town." And so the staff like fell out of their chairs. They're like, "Oh, so much work." And then they got together. They said, "Well, let's see if we can make this happen." And so it infused new energy into the event from a certain perspective. And I do want to talk a little bit about events and their branding because
Hmm.
lots of us have very historic events that have a lot of popularity. But I have also read that nonprofit events have a life cycle, and they are exciting when they're being put together for the first time, and then they're in their flourishing in their heyday, and then there's a time when people are so tired of this event You know, it's no longer has the cachet or attractiveness. It feels more of a burden. And so I do think that events need to be rebranded. However, often
Mhm.
you have people on your board who love this event and they're not going to let go of it one bit because they like it just the way it is. So would you like me to think about or chat a little bit about opportunities for greater fundraising revenue at an event?
Sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was my next question, so that's great.
Well, we're seeing the death of silent auctions and the rising of live auctions as greater emphasis, and a strong emphasis on what we call the fund a need or raise the paddle part of the live auction, where you've got to have a good auctioneer who is not a business auctioneer. You've got to have a charity auctioneer or somebody who really understands how to be entertaining and work the crowd. But people can raise hundreds of thousands of dollars with the fund they need. And what some of the secrets for this are that you get donors primed ahead of time who
Mhm.
really believe in this project. You do have usually a specific type of project that you can talk about. You bring testimonials up and get people weeping, you know, and drag it out and really get into the emotionality of your work and the project that's being, the impact that this project is going to make. So the fund and need can, if it's done well, and there's a lot of research, I recommend Sherry Trular and Red Apple Auctions. She's one of my favorite charity
Okay.
auctioneers, and she has a lot of training materials. Um, so, and also if you're going to have an auction, you've got to have the right people in the room. So your event committee's job really is to get the right people there. I've always read that the success of an auction really depends on the butts in the seats, butts in the
Right.
seats.
Yeah, absolutely. So on that, on that because some of this stuff is done online. I'm curious about your feelings about people getting together in this space right now. We're past COVID, but I'm wondering if you're seeing that maybe people are less interested in getting together for large gatherings, or is that not really, or is it coming back, or just wondering what your thoughts are.
We're seeing both. We're seeing all of the above. But I will say that two of our consultants have COVID right now.
Okay.
And there's apparently a new
Yeah.
variant. God goodness. And so, you know, I wouldn't say it's quite,
Yeah.
um, but people, the social life is gradually coming back and the pace of life is gradually coming back. I think people were in shock when they went from being in a pandemic shutdown to starting to be in person again. But there's some big events locally here in my town, one that I'm on the board of, and these galas are selling out. So I
Oh,
think
great.
there might be a lot of energy to come back together as a community. And it's important for our organizations to present themselves as community organizations
Yeah,
whenever they
makes sense.
can. And you know,
Um,
I mean,
uh, sure. Go
Zoom has a place. Zoom has a place in fundraising, but I think hybrid events are difficult. I know that some of the people who had Zoom events during the pandemic were able to bring in people from around the world.
Yes.
So that's a very powerful strategy to expand your reach, and I would not let go of that. Um,
Yeah, I hear you. I actually one of the people I'm speaking with for this class, he's in Scotland. So it's like again an example of you can do all sorts of things. I want to just say, Gail, that on the topic of getting together and bringing people to the table, um, and I'm trying not to flatter you, but I've been doing front run fundraising. I did it for more than 20 years, and the stuff that you and Gail Perry Group teach about is so on the nose for me. It's exactly what it is, and I come across stuff that I don't necessarily agree with. Your stuff is just it's just perfect. I wonder if you could talk about taking people from the event space to a major gift prospect, and how that works with your board members and your volunteers, and how that can come together in a really fruitful way.
yeah, and there are lots of perspectives on this. And the first thing is you got to understand you're not going to convert everybody who comes to an event to be a donor. Excuse me. And so you're going to have to be realistic, like which people at this event are interested in getting involved. So you sort of triage your guest list. And you use the event to have discovery conversations with people. And discovery conversation goes like this. Well, it's so wonderful to meet you. I'd love to know how you came to be here tonight and about your interest in our work. And they may say, oh, well, I just came because so and so wanted me at their table. Or they may say, I came to be at the table, but I'm also interested in learning more about your organization. So, doing frontline discuss, I like events, quite frankly, because I can work the crowd and I can get a lot of fundraising done quickly by just understanding, doing discovery and qualification on people, just finding out, do they have the capacity and the interest to get more involved? Do they have the interest? And so, again, I want to go back, be realistic. You cannot convert all of your event people to mission donors. It just is not going to happen. And so don't set expectations for yourself that you're going to not be able to meet, because it makes you an unhappy person. And so,
Right. No, I understand that. And that's discovery calls. Absolutely. It's interesting because, you're obviously an extrovert. I'm sort of on the other side, the introvert. And so when you talk about going around to parties and doing the discovery call, I think it's great. What I've done is I've sort of like opened the door a little bit and then I've gone back after the event and sort of done discovery, but only on certain people. And again, it's all a difference of style. I think it all works, but it's just really interesting that you can do that discovery call right in the event. I'm jealous, actually. That's really
well, what you're doing, you're trying to find out their donor story.
yeah,
What
yeah,
is what? And I like to say, what brings you here tonight? Or sometimes I'll say, what are you doing? What do you do? I don't know what they do for work. What do you do when you're not attending wonderful events for your favorite charities?
yeah. No, absolutely. That makes sense. So is part of that. I mean, when you're walking into a room like that, and you know what the charity is trying to do and what their strategy is that a good time to talk about where the institution is going, or is that premature? What are you trying to do at that point?
Remember, major gifts, you're trying to get the donor to spill the beans. The donor does the talking.
Right,
And
right.
so getting the more, remember everybody, the more the donor talks to you, the more they like you.
Yeah.
You're not going to become likable by being blathering away to a VIP donor. So I try to get the donors to spill the beans and tell me all about themselves. Oh, did you I understand you went to Scotland last summer. What was that like? Are you planning to travel this year? And travel questions are a great indicator of wealth capacity.
Right,
I
right.
want to go back and about in terms of deeper fundraising strategies that you apply to your regular events and galas. One of the strategies that I have used a lot with my capital campaigns through my career is a small VIP reception before the event. Lots of times the VIPs don't want to come to a mass event with hundreds of people or even 100 people. But if they know they're going to be in the room with 12 or 15 of people at that same level, they'll come. And often they'll come and they'll stay. And the fact that the VIPs are there when the bigger doors open and the other people come makes the other people who are coming think, oh, wow, well, these important people in our community are supporting this organization. So it helped, I mean, when you have very important donors and philanthropists in your community who are at your events, it signals,
Hmm.
it's a confidence builder, quite frankly. So these people are part of a brand in a way that are the stamp of approval on your work in front of other donors. So VIP receptions are really helpful, and also just think you can get all these top people in the room, and then you can really work the crowd very, um, very deliberately and get a lot done. Because, John, a lot of fundraising happens with small little social snippet conversations,
Right.
you know, and it's hard to teach how that works. But there's the golf course conversation, the country club conversation, the chamber of commerce conversation, the, the when people get together who are leading philanthropists in a community, they talk to each other. So you want to be sure to be alert to that.
Yeah, absolutely. What about on the reverse side of it? Because I've done some of this in higher education, and I think the VIP thing is great. We've also done, and maybe this other charities have done this, where you have the event, and then there is an outreach afterward, where it's a small number of people, and they sit down with the president or the CEO, and he or she asks them, what'd you think? Did you enjoy the event? Were there things that you heard that were really interesting? I mean, do you think that's a good strategy?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I mentioned triaging the guest list. You need to
Hmm.
know who's there. You need to have your priorities for who you're going to gently stalk, so to speak. And you have your board members assigned to meet and greet certain key people and to ask certain questions. Um, all of those are very helpful in terms of setting up a long-term relationship. But what was the earlier part of your question, I think, John?
Well, basically, using the event to springboard conversations of
Yes,
a more intimate
the
level.
mhm. Um, uh, I would invite certain groups. I try to segment my VIP attendees and invite certain groups would they like to take a tour? Would they like um, to have a coffee? We're having a small coffee with some people as a follow up to the event. But you remember, major gifts. Every single approach to a major gift donor or major donor is unique and different.
Hmm.
So you can't really do it all in lockstep. That's why you have to triage your priorities and just focus on a few people. But follow up is a real challenge. People will kill themselves to get everybody in town at their event, and then there's no follow up.
Right,
And
right.
so planning your follow up ahead of time is really key. Having a next
Yeah,
step.
I think so. It's being intentional and really, I mean, when you're at this event, Gail, I know you're not just floating around just saying hey to everybody. There's some, you like, I want to talk to this person. It needs to be natural, but I need to make a connection with this person, this person, this person. And maybe it's a board member that's introducing you, or what if you're the development professional, whatever it is, or if you're a volunteer. I mean, that's the sort of thing that you're talking about, isn't it?
Yeah, very much. Very
Yeah.
much. But a big gala one of our clients right here in town in Chapel Hill had a sold out mammoth gala last Saturday night or two weeks ago. And we're using that to stir the pot for the capital campaign because she needs some more big donor prospects. So we're going to go back through the event attendees one by one and set up her priority list
Okay.
for, for follow-up contacts. So she was able to open the door to a lot of people that night. And they're working on a new building. They have a lot of excitement. They're new initiatives. And so because of that wonderful event, where they raised a lot of money at their Raise the Paddle. Um,
Yeah,
it-
absolutely. That's a great event name. I love that. Raise the paddle. Hey, so on, and part of this class as well, Gail, is
Mhm.
the overall donor communication plan and the overall stewardship and contact throughout the course of the year. Um, I know that one of the things in fundraising we try to do is create some sense of urgency when we talk about, soliciting individuals. Do events and parties add to that? Is it a good strategy to, maybe not for an annual fund campaign? I'm thinking about maybe that also, but just, you're going into a capital campaign, you're going into a comprehensive campaign. As far as the momentum and when it happens, is that a big piece of it, or are celebration events just as good where you've done it and you've reached the goal? I'm curious to hear your perspectives on that.
So where do events fit into a donor relations program,
Yeah,
perhaps?
yeah.
Well, a lot of people have these things called annual meetings that are required in the bylaws. You can turn your annual meeting into an annual celebration of
Hmm.
philanthropy. You can have an event to honor your donors, everybody. And the old rule in fundraising is find 7 ways to thank your donors and they give again. So engaging your donors after the gift is absolutely fundamental to establishing to get a renewed gift and to convert them to loyal subscribers or loyal donors every year who are going to come through with some annual support. So donor loyalty and donor communications is so vital, and it's so funny that boards and CEOs of nonprofits tend to try to spend more time and effort on acquisition of new donors than retaining their current donors. And their
Right,
donors have,
exactly.
and our donor retention numbers are so poor
Mhm.
that it's just we are leaving money on the table all over the place by treating the smaller donors so poorly. And studies show that if you can do a really quick, warm, and personal thank you, that has a vast impact on the donor's consciousness and who you are. And I'll tell you something, doing a warm, personal thank you is not that easy because everybody
Yes.
wants to say, on behalf of the blah, 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 blah. You know, we so thank you so much. We're so appreciative. But it's got to show some personality. And Penelope Burke, the great Canadian researcher who's now retired, um, I have her book back there, and she has a whole chapter on thank you letters, which is really quite powerful. Um, I'd love to get permission to reprint some of that, but she
She
and
might do it for you. Yeah. I just want to say that Penelope was the first person I interviewed for this class. She was fantastic, and I'm so glad to hear the repeat message that you're delivering, which is you got to thank donors. People, as Penelope would say, it's you can't over solicit them. People want to hear that something good happened with the funds, and so I'm glad to hear that message being repeated.
yeah, yeah. I mean, the quick personal, but the thank you note that's in the book that I like so much that she holds up as a shining example. It only has about 5 sentences, and I think it goes like this: Dear Mrs. Chin, you must have heard the shouts of joy in our halls when we discovered that you will be underwriting our school children program. This gift is going to have this kind of impact. And I noticed the letter started out with the word you. You know, we can't thank you enough. And then the letter went on to give her the name and phone number of the person running the program and also inviting the donor to come in for visits. So there was a lot of, please come see us, please come this and that. I mean, of course, this sounds like a major gift. Sometimes major gifts are even harder to thank.
Sure.
And the best thing to do, of course, is pick up the phone and gush. Because I think one of our big problems as fundraisers, and it goes back to the when in doubt, throw a party theme, is that we are so serious and we are so formal and
Right.
just a little bit nervous about all this asking for money stuff. But the fact is that your donor, everybody, your donor has a warm, mushy heart. And your donor, it has feelings, real live personal feelings and emotions. And if we're trying to be so formal and so businesslike, we miss the emotionality of the donor's connection with our cause. And it's the emotion, how the donor feels, that's going to yield larger investments and even yield a major gift. So that's why we have to get the donor talking and not do too much pitching or talking, because the donor's got a story and they might want to tell you. I mean, I personally like frogs, and I think
Mhm.
swamps are really cool places. But nobody's ever invited me on a canoe tour of a frog spotting canoe tour of the swamp, and I would go, oh my gosh, I would love to go.
No
So
kidding.
your
Ev-
donors have interests,
Everybody's different.
your stuff,
Everybody's
and
this is great because I actually just interviewed him yesterday, but again, you're repeating some of the messages. Bernard Ross, I had with me yesterday, and he talks a lot about the emotion in fundraising as opposed to just what are the facts and the formality. And the favorite thing that he talks about is, because I've been doing this for years, is don't take everything the donor says to you at face value. And the reason is because it's emotion. It is they're gonna say that they want to think that they're rational, and they are to a certain degree, but passion beats being rational every time in fundraising, don't you think?
every time in fundraising, every time. I mean, I will say, when I was reading my book, I did a lot of research, and emotion inspires action, and logic inspires thinking. So when you go back to Julius Caesar, the speech in William Shakespeare's play, I think Brutus whips up the crowd. I've come to
Mhm.
bury Caesar, not to crown him or something. He whips the crowd up into a frenzy using emotional words. And, like Martin Luther King had the I Have a Dream speech, which is all vision and possibility. That is also compelling and wonderful to talk.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I know we have limited time today, Gail. I want to just conclude by saying, do you have any advice for young rising professionals, other than what we've talked about today, as they think about ways to use events, use ways of social gathering? These are all things that are covered in this class, but they're leading to major gifts. Do you have any specific words of advice sort of to part with?
Yeah, I think there's certain attitudes that you need to really practice, and I'll list them and their attitudes and sort of strategies. And one is that you need to have a positive outlook, my friends. You've got to be positive. You've got to be optimistic. You've got to look at the glass half full. You're not going to change the world if you're moaning and groaning about, oh, we can't raise money. All these other people are vacuuming up all the money in the town. We we're not going to do well, because there's plenty of that on nonprofit boards. People will shoot you in the feet. So you have to be the spark plug of energy. We can do it. We have a goal in this fun. There's the fun word again. And I do want to talk about a porch party too. So let's save a
Yeah,
couple.
I saw one of the clips from AFP conference. You talked about it. I was intrigued.
So I'll end with porch party, but let me give my advice to young fundraisers. So that attitude will take you far. We call that the $1,000,000 attitude. Can do, abundance. The pie is always getting bigger. There is money out there for your cause. You just have to be enterprising and be like a sleuth and be charming. So another quality to practice is what we call social and emotional intelligence. And that means that you are aware of yourself and what your tendencies are. Like, some people tend to talk, some people tend to listen,
Right.
and the whole notion of emotional intelligence is that you can monitor your own self. You've got your little, sometimes I call it Skippy and my guardian angel are on my shoulder, and they're jabbering at me like, this is my dark side and this is my higher side, do this.
Right. Right.
um, but be sure that you can control those voices in your head. And so being positive and optimistic, and I also want to say something, be cheerfully aggressive. Cheerfully aggressive.
Love it.
A funder told us once, a foundation executive, he said, he was talking at the AFP conference locally, and he said, look, all you fundraisers out in the audience, y'all need to be cheerfully aggressive with us in promoting your causes. Because if you're not doing it, who is?
Yep.
If you're not doing it, who is? That's very powerful, very powerful. And so, and I've already mentioned fun, lighten up, and don't,
Yes.
and try to, and also I think etiquette. I was raised in the South, to be a lady, very old fashioned. But the thing is, you need to be aware of your donors, and open the car door for people. Let them out of the elevator.
Yeah.
Watch your table manners, and if you're around more formal people, watch your clothes and everything. I've always tended to dress pretty conservatively,
Right.
in front of major donors. So, there's some personal things you do, um, to be more likable. Because I have heard of the concept of social dismissal. Isn't that wow? So your major donor doesn't
Yeah.
like you because you're boorish, or you have your cell phone on the table, or you wave your fork in the air when you eat. Who knows? But again, it's an understanding your donors and their proclivities.
So true. That's really a good point. So tell me about the porch party.
Okay. So a porch party, everybody, is a free event, and it is no ask. So it's the perfect donor relations tool. You can use a porch party to open doors to new donors. You can use a porch party to thank current donors, or bring all sorts of purposes. You can use a porch party to launch a capital campaign even, but it is a smaller social gathering. And the purpose of a porch party is get the people in the room that you can work the crowd. So the motto of porch parties is make friends first. Make friends first. And I'm getting ready, John, drum roll. I'm getting ready to create the porch party newsletter. The porch
All
party
right.
newsletter.
Can I get a copy?
It's going to be little videos I send out once a week
Okay.
until
Yeah.
the end of August. We're going to try to get organizations all around the world on August 26th to have a porch party or gathering of some type. And we're going to go for the Guinness World Book of Records on the world's largest porch party. And
You heard it here first, students.
Yeah. So the thing is, if you are having this porch party and inviting in new donors or your current donors and having fun, and there's a short program, um, this is like a donor relations touch right before the fall campaign starts,
Right,
right?
right, right.
Giving days are in the fall, year-end fundraising campaigns, fall fundraising campaigns, all happen this time of year. Just think, if we could have donor relations porch parties, free feel-good events with no ask all around the world, it sets up the fall fundraising season in a much more powerful way. And donors are going to be more open to giving. So that's a strategy. When in
I
doubt,
love it.
party, make friends first, then ask. Warm
I
up.
love it. Well, some of our students will be in the position to do that, and it's interesting. This class kind of wraps up towards that August 26th, so that's